what I would like to do is, just very briefly now, I'd like to open it up with a chance for you to talk back a little bit. But I'd like you to, I said that I want you to pay attention to the Gospel of the Mass this Sunday. Okay? The Gospel of the Mass is from St. Luke, chapter 3, verses 1 to 6. Okay? And the wonder of this Gospel is that there suddenly appears this figure, John, the son of Zechariah, suddenly appears in the desert. And he echoes the words of Isaiah. The words are that prepare a way of the Lord for the Lord, make straight His paths. And this is the capital announcement of the coming of this one we've been talking about all day. The Lord came to us at the time John lived. He comes to us each day in our own prayer, if we do it properly. And He comes to us at the end of the world. So this is the great prophecy of the coming of the Lord. And your praying is the coming of the Lord. So what I would like you to do, not now because we're out of time, what I would like you to do is to take this gospel home with you and have a piece of paper in front of you and a pen in your hand and give yourself to that gospel. If something strikes you, jumps off the page at you, stay with it. Don't have to read another paragraph. What is the Lord telling you there? If you have questions, jot them down. If you be like my old grandmother, if you're going to argue with it, jot it down. That's the way to read the Scriptures. That's the way that I find very helpful. And what happens is, when you do that over the course of time, you have a kind of a record of your prayer. You have a kind of a record of what the Lord is doing for you. So give yourself to the Word. We have a practice in my diocese of doing what is called word working. We call it that in our diocese. We're very creative. Word working, what it means is we gather and we allow the Word to work on us. And we read the text 3 times. What word or phrase or image jumps out at you? You read the text a second time. How does this have any effect on my life? And we read the text a third time. What does this ask me to change about me? We're always really good at seeing things to change about others. That's not it. This is about you. You and God. What is it? What does this text ask me to change about me? So I give you maybe that as a possible way of looking at the Scriptures. And they say if you start your day each morning doing that, you're opening yourself to God, the wonder of God, the wonder of you. And so many of you have told me now, coming up here just now, that the Lord has spoken to you today very powerfully. And as I say, when I get my hand in that nest, I get out of the way. So having said that much, I'm going to open it for a few questions, and then I'm going to, I want to say one final word before we go upstairs about grace that reigns itself. So any particular comments or questions you have? Yes?
You said before that everything has been planned by the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain that a lot of suffering in the world, in our lives?
Yeah. It's of course the most difficult thing to explain, the most baffling thing to explain. I guess what I come down to is this. If the Lord knew a better way of dealing with suffering, would He have sent His Son to suffer? Makes sense? that self-giving was the answer to suffering. And we could go on to many levels of that, many layers of that, but that's, in the end, the only way for us to deal with suffering is to unite our suffering with His. We become, He made us co-creators with Him. We do that in our work. He wanted us to be co-sufferers with Him. In doing that, we redeem the world with Him. So I know that the suffering can be very painful, very difficult. It can shatter a life. It can destroy things. We can unite our suffering with His, and we help redeem the world. Other thoughts or comments or questions or arguments? Yes, Miss.
You recommend joining prayer groups?
Oh yes, yes I do. I do indeed. Prayer groups are kind of a closer at hand church for us. It's a church in the home, church in the neighborhood. We belong to a wider parish church, of course, but we need the more. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So sure. Yeah. Prayer groups have been very important in my life. We bishops have, you know what Jesus Caritas is? Bishops in my part of the country we belong to a Jesus Caritas group, and we meet 4 times a year, and we spend an hour in adoration, and we have a social time and have dinner. And the next day morning we do a review of life. Where am I in my ministry now? What's been happening to me in the last 4 months? What's the Lord asking me to do? And it's a wondrous, freeing thing to do that with 4 or 5 bishops. We all have the same problems. So yeah, very, very good. Yes, Mark.
This might be more of a question for Jacqueline, but where does the term grace that reigns come from? Why choose that?
I'm sorry?
Grace that reigns.
Grace that reigns?
What's the meaning behind that?
Okay. The meaning behind that, good point. That's where I was going anyway in the end. The meaning behind grace that reigns is exactly what we've been doing today. I've tried to make you sensitive to the wonder that you are because God created you. I've tried to make you sensitive to the wonder who God is because God created you, because He is the great God. In making you sensitive to those things, what I've tried to kind of sneak you into is opening yourself to grace. Right? I said when God changes, when God calls us, He doesn't call us to become God. He calls us to become God-like. We remain who we are, but He changes us. And the way He changes us is by making His grace more and more powerful in our lives. More and more overflowing in our lives. And so all I've said today is what this society is called, Jack, of grace that reigns. I want grace to reign in your lives. I want the real grace, not the one we dream up. When I was a little kid, the catechism, you know what grace was? It was a milk bottle. And it was all full, it was all white. And when it was half full, it was only half white. And grace is not in a milk bottle. Grace is life. Grace is the touch of God. Grace is the movement of God. And if you pray in the way I've been talking about, you'll be more sensitive to God. You'll be more attentive to Him. You'll be more open to the promptings you receive. If He inspires you, go with it. In the context of the church now. Keep honest about all this. If He inspires you, go with it. If He prompts you, go with it. If He encourages you, go with it. I want you to be more and more sensitive to the magnificent grace of God. St. Francis de Sales wrote a little book introduction to the devout life. And by devout life, he meant an extreme sensitivity on your part and my part to these secret movements of God's grace. And grace that reigns is precisely what happens there. I would, grace that reigns is what we've been doing this afternoon. Grace that reigns is what we want. We want a life, not our own. We want a power, not our own. We want a movement, not our own. A light, not our own. We want a communion, not our own. Advent cannot be understood apart from grace that reigns. Not this particular society, but grace that reigns in you. Grace reigning in us is the kingdom of God. It's God's life coursing into us. Advent would make no sense without that. And what Jacqueline and the others are doing is, it's a ministry that is really trying to refresh the faith of people. We've been trying to do that today. To refresh your faith, especially your faith in God, especially your faith in yourself, especially your faith in the church, especially your faith in the Eucharist, especially your faith in the priesthood. I told you we talk a great deal in my country about the people of God, and we all made it kind of a Democratic Party thing. The people of God is not a Democratic Party, not a political party. Bishops and priests and you, we're all part of the people of God. We all have tasks to play, we all have missions to perform, and we need to pull together. And that's why so much of what Jacqueline does with priests and with her healing ministry is to renew the priesthood from inside, renew the laity from inside. That's really that's why I say grace that reigns summarizes everything we say.
I just have a quick sharing. I just wanted to mention that I also have the opportunity to pray for people who are dying. And that is an incredible ministry if anyone has ever helped someone to pass away. I know some of you have. And the graces that come with it when you help someone to pass away, what I received, I just want to let you know. If you know the Lord more and you know the way He speaks to you, and then more you know Him and become familiar with His ways and the way He again communicates to you, you will not be afraid of death. And I've had an opportunity, or several opportunities now in the last little while, where I've had an ability to take some people to their deaths. And I found that the ones who really are at peace are the ones who've had a long-standing relationship with the Lord. And it means 5 minutes a day. It doesn't mean hours and hours and hours, but the Lord wants to know you. He has formed you, and He will form you and take you back. And so that's where we came from. And I've also found that those individuals who I've prayed with before, who haven't had an opportunity to really get to know the Lord in this way and interact and know the language of the Lord speaking to you, their deaths are a little bit more struggling. And in a way where they often say, in the end, I hope, they're wanting peace. And they're hoping, I know some people have said, I hope I have achieved enough for the Lord. And this is the last act, I think, of repentance for them, to say, have I done enough? And I'm speaking to some of my own friends who are young adults who are searching out what is important to them. And today, the Bishop was speaking about prayer and speaking about the notion of coming closer to the Lord in different forms. If you really have your own personal relationship with the Lord and you forget about the institution, sorry.
Watch your mouth, child.
Yeah. Then you really certainly will grow in the Spirit, and you will grow in the relationship that you have. Because, again, every time He speaks to me about you, the thing He says most is, I love you. Thank you. Thank you, I love you. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you for being with me. Be in my heart, be in my soul, be in all of me as I am in you. That's the message that I'm just sharing with you today. Anything else?
And the last thing I would say about, we're going to upstairs now to the healing hour, whatever it is, hour and a half. And if you think about, where you came from the hand of God. You also have to think about where you're going. You're going to the hand of God. The old Catechism said He made us to know Him, love Him, and serve Him in this life, and to be happy with Him in the next. Right? You're moving toward that destination. That is your destiny. The Lord came, Jesus came to save us. Most of the saving He did was to heal those people of His time. Healing is an immensely powerful gift in the life of the church. Jacqueline has been graced with that openness to be an instrument of the Lord's healing power, and she makes that freely available now and to all of you. And it's part of where you're going. Many of you today have been hurting and telling me what you're hurting from, and you've expressed a need for healing. Grace that reigns naturally into healing. So Jacqueline, thank you for taking this ministry upon yourself. I know she's a reluctant healer because it's very hard for her to do this, but she steps forward because the Lord asks her to do that. And we'll close this day with being surrounded by the presence of the Lord's healing power through this gifted woman. Thank you so much for coming today. And